Alright, I think everything is ready. And I'm even more or less on time, just a minute late. I can live with that. I can live with that. Alright, so I got my browser set up, I got my spreadsheet set up, I think we're ready to get started. So, let's go ahead and get started. Hello, Shadowcat back, and we are back to work after having a week off on this one. Back to work on our Warhammer 40k module. Feels weird taking a week off from doing this. I haven't taken a week off from doing the tabletop stream for a long time. But I'm ready to get back into it. Last time we were here, we were working on races. It took us a really long time to straighten out the Kroot. Just because of their whole eating people and evolving thing. But I think we're in a good place on that one. At least I think we're in a good place on that one. There's mixed opinions on it. And then the Vespid are kind of boring. More or less. We finished them, but there's not a whole lot that's really special about them. Not that I could really find anyway. But then again, there's not a whole lot of information to go on. Even in Warhammer 40k, they're just the bug people. No, not those bug people. The other bug people. They're not Tyrannid. But they are bug people. I don't know, are Tyranids bugs? They get called bugs. But you look at them and they're not necessarily all really bug-like. Most of the Tyranids look like something out of a Lovecraftian horror. I don't know. That's all I really got on that one. So, with the Vespid done, the Kroot done, the tower done, now we gotta give him some toys. And that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna be working on the Tau Arsenal, and we're gonna be on this one a while. We're gonna be on this one a while, just because they have so very many toys to play with. So I'm going to go ahead and set us up a new sheet right here before I turn everything on. There we go. We'll need that. And let me just get everything turned on now. So we'll need our browser. And we'll need our spreadsheet. Which right now is empty. It's not going to stay empty for very long. Okay. So, first things first is we're going to need a template. And we're going to need to know what we're working on. So, in terms of weapons and armor, the first thing we're doing, of course, is going to be the actual... Wait, stay there. The actual armor. So, we need to get fire armor, or fire warrior armor, and we need to get recon armor. And we already established there's going to be a heavy armor and a light armor. So... I need to grab a template for armor. I think I've got that over here, right? Yeah. Okay. So we can go ahead and just grab this. We'll copy. And then we can come over here and paste. So we're going to say Fire Warrior Armor. We'll throw that in there, and we'll get going as soon as we can. So let's see what we can find on Fire Warrior Armor. So let's go with Fire. And see what we can find here. Let's see, only mastered fire. What else we got here? A Tau Fire Warrior. That ought to do it. Alright, so there's the Fire Warriors. He's a pretty good looking Fire Warrior. That armor does look pretty heavy, actually. So, making that heavy armor probably a good thing. But can I actually... Yeah, here we go, War Gear. Fire Warrior Combat Armor, and this thing needs to go away. Alright. Tau Fire Warriors wear a standard issue combat uniform, the combat armor, and equipment that is common to all members of the Fire caste when they are in the field. Their body armor is constructed in 2 layers. The outer face is a hard, ultra-dense nanocrystalline metal bonded to an inner layer of high-performance thermoset molecular polyethylene. The inner layer of the armor acts as a form of energy-absorbent padding for the dispersal of impact energy from kinetic or directed energy weapons. This helps blunt the trauma effects from high-velocity impacts. Okay. The highly advanced materials used in the armor's construction are very resilient to penetration and are quite lightweight compared to more conventional materials used by the Imperium like plasteel. The construction techniques are unknown to the Adeptus Mechanicus as they are forbidden from investigating dangerous alien technology by the Ordo Xenos and of the Inquisition. The elongated and thickened left shoulder plate acts as additional protective shield, especially when the Fire Warrior is kneeling with the weapon at his shoulder, covering that side of the warrior's body with extra plate. The Fire Warrior pictured to the right proclaims his allegiance to his species' homeworld of Tau by carrying the symbol of that sept of the Tau Empire on his left shoulder plate and chest. Fair enough. Alright, so there's stuff there that we can work with, we can integrate it. The materials we don't really need to worry too much about. We're just going to assume that it is what it is. So we don't need to do anything with that. What we do know is that it is fairly heavy, more or less. It's also fairly agile, at least for a heavy armor. And that shoulder plate gives it a little bit more armor while the soldier is kneeling. Now, I'm not sure if there's actually, I'm not sure if there's actual rules on kneeling in Starfinder, but we can look. We can look. For now, let's take a look at heavy armor and see what our numbers look like. So we'll look at armor, we're going to look at heavy armor. And when we look at heavy armor, level 1 heavy armor. Level 1 heavy armor starts off with at least some energy armor and some decently high kinetic armor, which is good. Relatively low max dexterity bonuses, but that's to be expected from heavy armor. Rather severe check penalties and speed adjustments. So we may go ahead and restrict this a little bit. We might make it a better armor, but we also might make it Tau exclusive, or at least maybe it benefits Tau more. I like the idea of it benefiting Tau more than other races, so maybe anybody can wear it, but it'll only really fit a Tau. I like that. And I see that Blizzard is in the chat. Hello, Blizz. Good to have you here. Yeah, when I look at this armor, it's humanoid. So I don't see any reason why anyone from the Imperium could not wear this. I mean, just looking at it, a human could wear this. You could probably slap a Necron in that if you wanted to. Maybe even an Eldar, but Eldar are a little bit different. They have a slightly different body shape. But I imagine if you had an Eldar who was maybe a little bit weird, even maybe an Eldar could pull it off. So I don't see a need to necessarily restrict it to the Tau race. I think they should just be able to wear it better. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to design a suit of armor And then we'll give some added benefits if a Tau wears it. That should work. So, Tau Fire Armor. How did we... With the Skitarii Warplate, they could wear it at level 1. And they had to be able to wear it at level 1 just because, yeah. However, the Skitarii Warplate was unique because it was bonded to you, so you could only wear one suit of armor. It was really good early on in the game, and really fell off later in the game. With the Fire Warrior armor, we can't do that. So what I think we're going to do is we're going to need to have multiple armors. So for example, a level 1 armor, a level 6 armor, 10, and 16. And so you should be able to upgrade your armor as we go. So we're going to say Fire Warrior Armor. And then we'll call this one Ember. Fire Warrior Armor. What do we want to go up to next? We'll call this one Flame. Fire Warrior Armor Blaze. And Fire Warrior Armor Inferno. I know, you can't see it, but it's there. But we gotta have the different names so we can denote which armor is which. That way, if you kill a Tau and you go to loot the body, I can say, oh, he's wearing a set of fire armor or Fire Warrior armor, and it's gonna be Flame class. There you go. Now you know what you're doing. Price I'll have to work out later. However, bonuses. And for bonuses, why don't we go ahead and take a look at this. So, for level 1 armor, it looks like we are averaging about 2. So I think that's what we're going to do. We're going to give this one 2, and we got a 3, 5, and 4. That averages to 4. So we'll say 2, 4. Oh, hold on. Forgot to format. Not default formatting. Undo that. Format cells. Make this text. So, plus 2 energy, plus 4 kinetic. Now, looking at the max dex bonuses, we've got 2, 0, and 2. That's going to be an average of about 1.5-ish. We're going to go ahead and round that up to a 2. So we'll call that 2. The armor check is going to be 3, 3, and 2. I'm going to call it a -3. Nope, -3. Speed adjustment, 10 feet, 10 feet, 5 feet. I'm going to go with 10 feet. Upgrade slots, 3, 0, and 0. Well, given that it has the additional armor plate on it, I'm inclined to use that as an upgrade slot. So I'm going to go ahead and say that it has 1 upgrade slot in it. And bulk, we've got 3, 3, and 2. I'm going to call it 3. And so that should be good. Now, what about level 6 armors? There is only one. There's only one level 6 armor to pick from. Okay, we'll have to make it up ourselves then. Vesk Overplate 1. Which means there's not even a previous version for me to reference back to. It is an improvement, though. So I think that what we're going to do... You know... What if I just scaled it up by the levels? So, +5 to every... Well, to these two. So that'd be a +7 energy and a +9 kinetic. Would that track? So... We've got this level 5... Not really? Doesn't really track. The level 5 armor is already at... Well... Not level 4 armor. So the level 4 armor is 7 and 8. But this Hell Knight stuff, this is 9, 10. The Lashunta Ringwear 2 is 8 and 10. Where's the Ringwear 1? Oh, it's right here. Wow. Okay, so, hold on. Ringwear is a level 1 armor. It's a 2-4. And then the Ringwear armor jumps from 2-4 to 8-10. That's a pretty big jump. And is there more Ringwear? Yeah, here's a Ringwear 4, 16, 18. Ringwear 5 is 20 and 22. Is there a Ringwear 6? I don't see one. Alright, so it looks like most of these kind of cap out at well over 20. However, we're only going up to level 16, and these level 16s are about 20. Alright, then let's think about this for a minute here. If we know that we want to end up at about a 20-ish for both of them, maybe a little bit over 20 for both of them, how would we do that? That means that if I wanted to add 20 to both of them to make it like a 22 and a 24, well, yeah, 22 or 24. If I added 5 to each one, that'd be 15, so that's not going to work. I need something divisible by 3. So if not 15, maybe 18, which will put this up to a 20 and a 22. That actually kind of works. That actually kind of works. So what if we did this? What if we just add 6 to each one? So the level 6 armor will be +8. Level 10 armor will be +14. And level 16 armor will be a +20. The kinetic armor class becomes a +10, +16, and then +22. And that keeps it more or less in parity with the other heavy armors. Alright, maximum dexterity bonuses. I think I'm actually going to change this. I'm going to make this a little bit easier. I'm going to say +1, +2, +3, and +4. So, the higher you get in your armor, the better your max dex bonus becomes. Super simple. I love it. It works. Armor check penalty. The armor check penalty doesn't really change on a lot of these armors, so I don't think that I'm going to change it on here. Same thing with the speed adjustment. So I'm going to say -3 all the way down. And the speed adjustment, I'm going to keep it as a -10 until we get to level 10 armors. I'm going to make it a negative or -5. Upgrade slots. I'm going to keep this as a... Well, hold on. Let's take a look at that level 16 armor. Upgrade slots. These have 6. So I guess we should be growing with this. Keeping in mind that we already have the shoulder plate, it's going to give you extra armor. I'm just going to go ahead and increase these over time. 3 and 4. Given that you already have the extra plate, that's really going to be more like a 2, 3, 4, 5. And I'm good with that. And the bulk is going to stay the same the whole way through. Now, here's where things are going to get a little bit interesting. Because this is going to be properly fitted for a Tau Fire Warrior. And since each one of the casts is just a little bit different, when we say custom fit for a Tau Fire Warrior, we mean fire. A water cast, air cast, earth cast is not going to get the same benefit throwing this stuff on. So, when worn by a fire cast, we are going to increase max dex +1. Well, I'm going to take this increase out because I don't want it to be too wordy. So max dex +1. Armor check -1. And speed adjust +5. Or is it -5? Maybe I want -5 actually. Well, no, because it's already a negative number, so we want to go +5. Which means that when worn by a fire cast, they will get a much better bonus out of the dexterity. They'll be able to do stuff better because of the lower check penalty, and by the time you're level 10, if you're a fire warrior wearing fire warrior armor, you take no penalty to your speed at all. Which should be great. Alright, and Tux is in the chat. Hello, Tux. Good to have you here. We are just finishing up the Fire Warrior armor. And I think that looks pretty good. I mean, that's armor I'd wear. Even if you're not Tau, that's not bad armor. There's better armor out there, of course. But this, not bad. Now granted, if you get the chance to go shopping, you can buy whatever armors you want. What I'm saying is that if you were to actually like kill a fire warrior and you wanted to take their armor, this would be perfectly serviceable armor to wear into almost any engagement. You know, assuming that you are a heavy armor kind of person. Me personally, I have never been a heavy armor kind of person. Just because I like my speed. I like my agility, my dexterity. So I've always kind of shied away from heavy armor. But if I had to wear something, it's pretty good. And JP's in the chat. Hello, JP. Good to have you here, too. You're not still on a boat, are you? I thought you came home already. Maybe you did. Okay. Either way, I mean, I'm just glad to have you here. Oh, speaking of boats, actually, it's been like raining hard for hours straight here. If this stream goes down, it's probably because my internet got washed out somehow. My internet's been really flaky as of late, so yeah, it's not great. Not great at all. Alright, though. Next, we are going to be doing recon armor, I think. Right? Yep, recon armor. And this is going to be a light armor. JP says, yeah, back in the snow. Oof, that's rough. I don't actually have snow here yet. No snow, just rain. However, it is raining and miserable and everything else. Actually, yesterday was rather nice. It was almost up in the 60s. Almost. Didn't quite make it. We got one nice day, and then it's just like, nope. Back to misery for you. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and copy and paste this down here. This is going to be recon armor. Now let's see what we can find on recon armor. Recon. Okay, so what do we got here? There are alternative kinds of cadre within the Firecast with some most specialist formations optimized for specific battlefield roles. The Retaliation cadre, for example, groups of teams in battle suits, particularly stealth suits, into a single force ideal for rapid insertion, drops, and counter assault. Meanwhile, the Infiltration cadre is used for reconnaissance. In force, it's Pathfinders, sniper drone teams, my favorite, and Piranhas engaging foe with guerrilla tactics while calling down strikes on key strategic targets. Maybe. Hold on. Recon armor is a function of Pathfinders, I think. Let me take a look. Let's see. Scouting force. Does it say what war gear they carry? Let's see. They infiltrate the battlefield for confrontation. Photon carbines fitted with pulse carbines with photon grenades, marker lights, seeker missiles. Does not say anything about their armor, though. Oh, and Malachi's in here. Hello, Malachi. Let's see. Notable formations. No, I don't see that. I wonder, is there like a section here just for war gear? I think there is, actually. Tau warfare, types of cadres, the Tau, the crew, the Vespid, humans, yes, yes, yes. No, I'm not seeing anything in here. Would have thought there would be, though. Other Tau settlements, artifact worlds, forces... No, there's not. Okay. I'm going back to looking for recon. Piranhas used in reconnaissance. Oh, there's only 3 mentions of recon in here at all. Well, that's disappointing. Alright, what about back in the Fire Warrior stuff? No, there's nothing in the Fire Warrior stuff. Recon armor's got to be in here somewhere. Question is, where is it? Alright, I'm just going to try some of these. Sniper drone teams. Nope, nothing there. Piranhas? That's tanks. Retaliation cadres. That's battle suits. I have no idea where we're getting this recon armor. Okay, maybe I'm wrong. I would have swore that it was recon armor. Tau war gear. Oh, there we go. Here we go. A whole page full of everything that I probably want. Now can I find it? There it is. Found it. Recon armor. Alright. Recon armor is a form of Tau infantry armor that is a variant of the combat armor worn by all fire warriors in battle. It lacks several of the reinforced layers and armored plates of combat armor, trading a degree of protection for greater freedom of movement. It is most commonly used by Tau Pathfinders. Then why wasn't it listed on the Pathfinder page? Probably was and I just missed it. As it is more suited to their role as forward scouts. Constructed in 2 layers, same as the Fire Warrior. The outer face is nanocrystalline. It is veneer bonded to an inner layer of high-performance thermoset molecular polyethylene. Sure. This, I do not believe, really gives any kind of special property. Not like the Tau Fire Warrior armor. Oh, you know what we forgot to do with the Fire Warrior armor? We forgot to account for that shoulder plate. Which is something we need to look into. Let's go into combat. I need combat rules. And kneeling does not appear anywhere in here. What about aiming? No? Nothing for aiming? Malachi says they're quiet. Next paragraph. That's fine. It's light armor, though, so it's not likely to give any penalties for stealth. Yes, it says right here. Additionally, nano-threaded fatigues worn beneath recon armor by the Fire Warrior are interwoven with sound-absorbing fibers to aid in avoiding detection. The techniques used in fabrication of recon armor are unknown to the Imperium. Alright, so maybe we can do that. It gives them something at least. In fact, that's actually... No, you know what? You're right. That's really good. Because we got to put in rules for the Fire Warrior armor to give them extra protection when they're kneeling, when they're aiming. So that'll mean that the Fire Warrior armor will have 2 additional properties on it. And if we give the recon armor a stealth advantage as well as the Tau racial advantage, then they both have 2 properties on them. Oh, Malachi says sensor suite too. I don't know if I really want to go that far. Like, the sensor suite is fine, but that's also like an add-on that you can get, I think. Because if we go back to the armor, we got to remember that all of this armor has upgrades. And with all the upgrades that you can get, I wonder if there is a stealth module in here. But here we go, targeting computer. So here's your sensor suite. Slap that baby in your helmet, and now you can aim better. There's also force fields, phase shields, deflective reinforcements. I don't see anything for stealth. But as for sensor suites, yeah, I think they're already kind of covered in here under the targeting computers. And I get that might be a little bit narrow for like a whole sensor suite that's supposed to tell you everything about your area, but again, I don't know if I want to go too hard on this. Because I could easily make this armor just grossly overpowered. I don't want to do that. I am going to have her make this available at the same levels. Just because if you're going to be playing a Tau, if you make a Tau character, you're going to want to have this available at level 1. So we're going to do that just to give ourselves a little bit of extra room. And we will need a naming convention here. So I think I'm going to, because they're sneaky armors, I'm going to go with... what am I going to go with? I'm thinking thieves. So I think we're going to go with Recon Armor Petty, Recon Armor Cat, Recon Armor... let's see. What will be the next step up from a cat burglar? I'm going to call it Recon Armor Break for, you know, breaking and entering, and then Recon Armor Heist. And that should be good. I am also going to straight up just copy this. And I'm going to also say, and JP says Thief Catcher. That's like the opposite of what we're going for. I'm also going to say that the armor is going to go ahead and give... Oh, I know. Hold on, I got this one. No armor check. Actually, you know what? Oh, no, wait. I don't think that's actually going to work. I was going to say, here's what we're going to do. We're going to say no armor check on stealth. Well, maybe I should rephrase that. No armor check penalty on stealth. And then perception doesn't actually have a penalty on it. At least I'm relatively certain. Like, I'm almost positive, but now I'm second guessing myself. Let's see, skill descriptions, here we go. Untrained, ability... Okay, so anything with an asterisk armor check penalty applies. Perception has no armor check penalty, so that's fine. Stealth does... Malachi says it's recon armor, so it could be Watcher, Observer, Scout, and Sentinel, because, you know, the greater good. And that just makes too much sense. Alright, I'll go with it. It's good. Observer. Scout. Sentinel. It's better. I'll give you that one. Alright, so no armor check penalty on stealth checks. So if you've got good stealth and you're wearing recon armor, go for it. If you've got bad stealth and you're wearing recon armor, there wasn't anything saving you in the first place. Sorry. And going back to the Fire Warrior for a moment, I'm going to go ahead and say this. Kneel. And when kneeling, you are going to... I don't want to take away your entire movement. So I'm going to say move at half speed. Gain 10% cover. It's not much, but, you know, it might help. So basically, if you're wearing Fire Warrior armor and you kneel, if you're already at speed 30, you go down to 15. However, every single time you get hit, roll a d10. On 10, ignore it. Okay then. Now we got to get back to the recon armor. Now that we got that straightened out. So let's compare this to other armors. I'm going to go to light armor. And why are these up here? Why can't you guys keep your stuff straight? Whatever. Alright, level 1 armor. We've got 0, 1, 0 in terms of energy, 1, 2, 1 in terms of kinetic. I'm going to go with the majority average here and just say 0, 1. Maximum dexterity bonus, however, is going to be 5s and 6s. So I'm going to go ahead and say that's going to be a +5. The armor check penalty is nothing and 1 -1. I'm going to go ahead and say none. No speed adjustment at all. And upgrade slots, we've got 0s and 1. Or no, wait, hold on. I looked too far down. 2, 1, and 0. That averages out to about 1. So we're going to do that. And then bulk, they're all light. Now, let's take a look at the level 16s and see what they look like. There's level 16 right here, actually. That's a +19 and +21. But what about some of the others? There's this Shota Lashu armor, which is also a +19, +20. That's not bad. That's not bad at all. What we did up here is we simply added 6 per level. And that brought us up to a 20 and 22. If we did the same thing here, that would end up with this being a 18 and a 19. Which is pretty close. So I think that's what we're going to do. We're going to go with a +6, +12, +18. And this one will be a +7, +13, and +19. Why am I doing math when it's just one bigger than the previous one? Stop using your brain. let's see. The level 16 armor does have a +7 dexterity bonus. So, I mean, I feel like I can just keep increasing this. +6, +7, +8. Which is really kind of funny because I don't think the Starfinder actually allows you to go above 20. Could be wrong. I would allow you to go above 20. I think you can have stats as high as you want as long as you can make it work inside the rules. And as for upgrade slots, I'm just going to add 1 each time. So, there we go. And that gives us our recon armor, which again, pretty good armor. Still don't know how much it's going to cost. But otherwise, I mean, that's good. Especially if you happen to be fire warriors. Because if you're fire warriors, then, I mean, it just gets better. Actually, it doesn't really work for them. Let's see, max dex +1. The max dex is already so high, you'll probably never reach it. Armor check penalty, there is no armor check on this. Speed adjustment, there is no speed adjustment. I can't make you run faster. So, unfortunately, I gotta delete those. So, I guess you're just gonna get a maximum dexterity bonus +1. It's unfortunate, but yeah, I mean, I gotta balance it somehow. It's good, though. I like it. So I'm gonna bump that up there. I'm going to put a box around it. Do the same thing up here. Put a box around it. And we can move on to the next thing. Which I think is all we've got for armors. Is that all we've got for armors? Kroot don't wear armor. We've got guns, marker lights. Yeah, that's all we've got for armors. Okay, then. We get to move on to the fun toys. The shooty toys, the blasty toys. And we're going to start with EMPs. Because for some reason, EMPs don't exist in Starfinder. At least until you get to ships. Which is why we may actually borrow from some of the ship combat and see how well that works. So why don't we back up a bit and we'll start looking at this. Weapons for the Tau Empire, air-bursting fragmentation projector, otherwise known as a grenade launcher. Yeah. Dawnblade, it's a sword. Here we go, EMP blasters. And it's an experimental Tau weapon that fires short-range rounds, which explode in a small blast and generate electromagnetic pulses upon impact. EMP blasters are issued exclusively to XV-46-4 Vanguard Commander variant Void battlesuits. That is a name so long only the military could have thought it up. Malachi says EMPs could be devastating if they're usually ship weapons. Actually, they are. So if we go ahead and take a look at weapons. Weapons down here. And we look at cartridges, charges, missiles, improvised. Here we go. All right. We've got energy damage, acid, cold, electricity, fire, sonic. And then we've got kinetic, bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing. Okay? We got all the normal stuff. And even with electricity, usually it's more of a stunning effect. So let me find... Here we go, shock weapons. So here's some shock weapons. These are pulse caster pistols and arc pistols. These are non-lethal or stunning. So you can set this weapon to stun with a stun mode, or reset it to normal mode as a move action. While in stun mode, all the weapon's attacks are non-lethal. This is what normal electrical weapons do. And there really isn't anything for going up against just like straight up machines. Because we do have androids in here. There is an android race, but they're generally treated the same as anyone else. So, complex technological creations crafted to resemble humans. Androids were originally a servitor race, but they have since broken free from their own society, or they have since broken free to form their own society. Men of Iron, anyone? Let's see. They are constructed, existing in a plethora of shapes and sizes, many different from humans. The species was originally built to emulate, which is fine. As an android, though, they are constructed. So, for effects targeting creatures by type, androids count as both humanoids and constructs, whichever effect is worse. They receive a +2 racial bonus to saving throws against disease, mind effects, poison, and sleep, unless those effects specifically target constructs. And additionally, they do not breathe or suffer the normal environmental effects of having or being in a vacuum. They have exceptional vision. They have a flat affect, which makes them, or they take a -2 penalty to sense motive checks. They have upgrade slots that they can upgrade themselves. Let's see, alternate racial traits easily augmented, so they can do more stuff. Impersonation matrix, which undoes the flat affect. Infosphere integration, multilingual, nano upgrade. There's all of this stuff, but nothing specifically means that they cannot be, like, stunned. So if you were to shoot both a human and an android with a lightning weapon, it would affect them the same. The game just doesn't really go into it like that. Malachi says, I'm just sort of thinking to myself that depending on exactly how the EMP is handled, it could literally game over a guy in powered armor, because when it shuts down and seizes up, the armor is dead weight. That's a good point. And Unicorn's in the chat. Hello, Unicorn. Says, if they're disarming a bomb and you stun them, is it not, or still non-lethal? Well, the shot that stunned them is non-lethal. Technically. Because, like, the bomb they're disarming is an entirely separate frame of reference. Of course, depending on the bomb, if you're close enough to shoot them with it, you're probably dead too. That's a lack of foresight on your part. Okay, anyway, EMPs though. If we go to starships, now starships do have EMP weapons. So here's what happens here. We got EMPs. We have light EMP cannons, heavy EMP cannons, and under capital weapons, super EMP cannons. And what EMPs do is up here. Here we go. EMP. So, a weapon with this special property emits a beam of electromagnetic energy that does not deal damage to ships or shields, but it plays havoc with these ships' electronic systems. On a hit, an EMP weapon scrambles one of the target's starship systems, determined randomly. This causes that system to act as if it had the glitching condition for 1d4 rounds. A system glitching in this way can be patched as normal, but if it takes critical damage, its glitching condition becomes constant until the system is patched or repaired, or it takes further critical damage. Functioning shields are unaffected by EMP weapons and completely block the EMP weapons' effects. Basically, how this works is just as a reminder of how starship combat works. When ships are firing on each other, you do still have the same roll to hit and then determine damage afterwards. However, when a starship takes critical damage, so you roll your attack and you roll a natural 20, whereas with regular weapons, there are secondary effects. So just picking any random weapon here. So here we go. Pulse gauntlets. When you punch somebody with a pulse gauntlet, it does 2d6 bludgeoning and SO. The hell does SO mean? I don't know. Either way. Oh, sonic. Sonic damage. So it does 2d6 bludgeoning and sonic damage. But if you rolled a critical, rather than, like doubling the damage or rolling for damage again, what you get is a knockdown. So they are knocked prone. And then you can do whatever you want to a creature that would already be knocked down prone. With starships, when you hit them and you crit, you actually get to affect the ship as a whole. And how this works is if we come down here to Starship Combat, actually I don't need that. I don't need the search bar. I just need the menu? Or the table of contents? Did I miss it? Or do they just not have one? Of course they don't have one. Critical damage. Okay, here's what we do. So, if you were to roll a natural 20 or I rolled a natural 20 against you, here's what happens. So, a starship takes critical damage from an attack only if that attack deals damage to the starship's hull points, not their shield points. That's something to be very, very aware of. You want to keep your shields up as best you can, which, is kind of obvious. You don't want to you don't want to let your shields go down, and that's why you really need to have a science officer who can balance and direct your shields. However, if your shields are down, if they hit the hull, if they actually get a critical hit on you, then we roll a D100. 1 through 10, life support. 11 through 30, sensors. 31 to 60, weapons. 61 to 80, engines. 81 to 100, power core. And it tells you here where it happens. So this applies to all captains' actions, applies to all science officers' actions. For weapons, you randomly determine one weapon, whatever it is, and, one arc and... Okay, so randomly determine one arc containing weapons. Condition applies to all gunner actions using weapons in that arc. So, okay, it's not one weapon, it's everything in that arc, including your turret. Your turret is always affected. Engines is pilot actions. Power core is all engineer actions. And what it does is this. So if it's glitching, if it happens to be your system that was affected, that is a -2 penalty on every single roll that you're doing to fix it, except for, repairs. If it's crit again, now it's no longer glitching, it's malfunctioning. Instead of a -2, it is a -4, and you can no longer use your push abilities, which in Starfinder, you're given a certain number of resolve points per day that you can use for extra actions. push actions use your resolve. And so now you can't do that if it's malfunctioning. If you get crit a third time, well, now it's wrecked. Its minimally function crew actions involving that system, except for repairs, automatically fail. If the power core is wrecked, all crew actions aboard the starship not involving the power core take a -4 penalty. This, of course, also stacks with penalties already on the other systems. Now, here's where this gets really interesting, because in combat on the ground, you have your weapon, whether it's a gun, a sword, an axe, a rifle, whatever. Okay? You have one attack per turn. And so you pick your target, you roll the dice, you shoot, slash, whatever, and you do your damage. One turn, one attack. I mean, yes, once you get into higher levels, you can get things like multi-attack, but in general, one person, one turn, one attack. That does not apply to starships, though. If you have a starship that has, say... What's a good example? Some of your larger ships may have 2 weapons on the forward arc, 1 weapon on the aft arc, and a turret on either the top or the bottom. Since a turret can fire in all arcs, that means that if you were to maneuver your ship to be head-on with an enemy, if you had enough people manning the weapons, you could shoot with both forward weapons and the turret in one turn. And you don't even take a penalty for that. If you have 3 people who can man the consoles, then you can do it. Which means that in Starship Combat, yes, you want to keep your shields up. However, if the first shot damages the shields, the second shot drops the shields, and the third shot hits the hull, there is nothing the other ship can do to avoid that. Likewise, if the other ship can do that to you, they absolutely will. It also means that as combat goes on and as shields are drained, it is possible, it doesn't happen very often, but it is possible that you can get multiple critical shots on a ship at one time. There is also another note, and that is, it is possible to get a crit without rolling a 20. If we go back and look at starships, and we look at the actual statistics for them. This is a racing ship, so very small. Size is tiny, maneuverability is perfect. It's got 20 hit points. The increment is 5, so the better you get your ship, the more hit points it gains. Then we have DT and CT. DT is called the damage threshold. You don't see that until you get into larger ships. But that is basically what you would call damage resistance before, like on an individual level. Basically, you don't actually do damage until you exceed the threshold. Obviously, a little racing ship doesn't have a damage threshold. But if we get into things like a carrier, it has a damage threshold of 10. Now, mind you, a carrier is a very big ship, and it's probably also fighting other big ships. So, getting over that damage threshold, probably not that hard. More importantly, critical threshold. So, as I'm sure you can guess, if you can damage over the critical threshold, it counts as a crit. Which means that if you were taking volley fire, maybe the first shot dropped your shields, and the next rolls was a 20 and a 15. The 20 is automatically a crit, no matter what damage it does. So you roll the damage on the 20, and you got 6 damage. Still a crit, though. You rolled a 20. The other one, you rolled a 15, but when you rolled for damage, you rolled an 11. That's over the critical threshold. That's 2 crits in 1 turn. Roll a d100 and see where the crits are. And yes, sometimes that means that one system goes from being perfectly functional to malfunctioning in 1 turn, and you gotta deal with it. Alternately, though, you can also do that to enemy ships. And it's a great feeling when it happens, because you're just like, bam, we got them. So that's how combat works, that's how crits work in Starship combats. And EMP weapons score a critical hit as long as they touch the hull. So obviously you're going to need something to knock down the shields first, but if you can get through the shields, literally every single hit by an EMP weapon is a crit. It's a crit, it's a crit, it's a crit every single time as long as you're putting shots on target. Which means that if you really wanted to, you could build a ship with a whole bunch of weapons pointed in like one direction, and just have one weapon to knock down shields, and then just EMP the entire ship to death. And then once it's disabled, board it. So that's how that works, and we're going to have to translate that into something more handheld. And it's not going to be as easy as just saying, well, EMP ship weapons automatically inflict critical hits. Obviously, EMP handheld weapons will inflict critical hits. That's not going to work. I mean, it's not a bad place to start, but it's not going to work. Malachi says, that'd be a solid piracy strat. I mean, it is, actually. And I've run enough combat simulations between ships to say that EMPs, EMPs are nasty. I mean, EMPs are basically useless at the beginning of the fight because you both have good solid shields. Later on, however, once the shields get knocked down, if you can't get the shields back up, man, it's over. Malachi says an EMP weapons boat plus a shield wrecker. Yeah. I don't know if there's anything that really goes after shields explicitly. Let's see. Arrays can fire on multiple targets. Broad arcs can fire into other arcs. Burrowing weapons actually go through shields. So there's that. EMP weapons we just covered. Irradiating weapons go after the crew. Limited fire weapons are just that. I mean, they're usually things like missiles or torpedoes. Line weapons can hit multiple targets sometimes. Point weapons can shoot down incoming projectiles. Quantum weapons allow you to give you basically advantage on your attacks. Rippers have all the damage dealt by the Ripper weapons to shields. However, they are usually very powerful. Tractor beams are exactly that, and vortex weapons are just don't count on getting one. Because, like, there are actual vortex weapons in Warhammer 40k that are outlawed by the Imperium of Man. Because even the Imperium Man said, no. And if the Imperium of Mankind says it is too dangerous to be used, you are dealing with something that is absolutely ridiculous. I mean, the Imperium of Man is basically what you get if OSHA never existed, and humanity was then allowed to evolve for another 38,000 years. And the vortex weapons in 40k, humanity says, no, you are not allowed to use that. That is too dangerous. It's the kind of thing that even the orcs would go, damn. So don't ever count on getting vortex weapons. Alright, so we gotta figure this out. For EMP weapons, we're gonna need to do two things, because since these fall into the category of doing like straight damage, they're gonna need to do two things actually. Number one, we need to figure out what EMP weapons are going to do versus infantry. And then, number two, we have to figure out what EMP weapons will do to vehicles. See, rule of thumb is everything escalates by tens. So a pistol that does, like 1d6 damage, you would have to take the damage and then divide it by 10 when you apply it to a vehicle. Similarly, if a vehicle-mounted weapon targets an infantry, whatever damage you did, you multiply that by 10. Now, that does not mean that you cannot use these weapons against each other. It means that if you're going to take a pistol and shoot it at a vehicle, even if you rolled max damage on the pistol, you're still doing less than 1 damage. A pistol versus a vehicle is not gonna work. However, if you happen to be packing, say, I don't know, a level 20 sniper rifle, and you see somebody coming by in a tank, yeah, a level 20 sniper rifle can probably go through the tank. And justifiably so. So, infantry weapons can be used against vehicles. So we need to have rules for EMPs versus vehicles. Technically speaking, the same thing is also true of starships. You can use infantry weapons versus starships. But if it's times 10 to do damage to a vehicle, and then times 10 to get from vehicle to starship, that means that your infantry weapon would have to do over 100 damage to even really scratch a starship. I don't think there's any actual infantry weapons that are even capable of doing that. Likewise, however, see, this is where vehicles are actually in a very interesting spot because they split the difference. Starships cannot target things that are too small. This is why when you look at, I'm in combat here, starships, capital weapons. Where are they? Cost, damage, class, types, no. Where did it point it out? Oh, wait, it's right here. Okay, so class. Weapons belong to one of 3 classifications. Light weapons can be mounted on any ship, but most typically found on smaller fighters and bombers, while dangerous, light weapons do not have the firepower necessary to damage very large starships. Remember that damage threshold we were talking about. Heavy weapons are a serious threat to any vessel, but can be mounted only on medium or larger starships. Capital weapons can be mounted only on huge or larger starships, and capital weapons cannot be brought to bear against tiny or small targets and are typically only used against other large vessels. So, knowing that capital weapons cannot be used against tiny or small targets, we can effectively bring this down. If capital weapons cannot be used against tiny or small targets, then we're probably looking at a situation where heavy weapons probably cannot be used against vehicles, and light weapons cannot be used against infantry, which means there's no starship weapon that can be used against infantry. Now, that doesn't mean that you couldn't try. Like, if you wanted to try blind firing, I would allow it. I see no reason why not to allow it. If you want to just start blasting away and hoping that you hit something, we're basically looking for a critical hit. Now, in the event that you do get a critical hit, remember what I said about scaling by tens. This coil gun over here does 4d4 damage. Caps out at 16. That's why when we look up here and we say that, you know, small weapons generally cannot affect larger ships, let's find out where our damage thresholds start. Damage threshold 5, 10, 10. Okay, the largest ship is a dreadnought. It has a damage threshold of 15, meaning that it is basically immune to coil gun fire. And there's other ships that actually do less damage than coil guns. However, that coil gun that does 16 damage, since we multiply it by 10 for vehicles and then 10 again for infantry, that 16 damage becomes 160 damage if it actually hits somebody. Someone's having a bad day. But this also means that, like I said, while we're looking at EMP weapons, they can be used against vehicles, and so we need to figure out how we're going to handle this. Which I think means that we're going to have to just write down some basic rules for EMPs, and then EMP weapons, I don't know if we necessarily need to have different levels of EMP weapons, because I don't know if they're going to necessarily improve over time. So let's go ahead and get started on EMP. EMP weapons. Alright, first off, EMP weapons will be harmless versus organic targets. Just straight up. If you have no cybernetics in you at all, then you are absolutely immune to EMPs. And I think that's fair. Because I think that everything else that comes with an EMP is going to be very overpowered, to be honest. But that's usually good balance. The more niche it is, the more powerful it should be. Alright, so harmless versus organic targets. Now, against constructs. What do we want to do with this? Tuck says, but what about my cell phone and my Nintendo? Well, I'm sorry, but your cell phone and your Nintendo Switch, you got to make a fortitude save versus being absolutely wrecked. But you'll be fine. I can promise you'll be fine. Malachi says, what about a steel plate in my skull from an old war injury? In character, of course. Yeah, of course. Actually, I don't think it would really matter. I mean, technically speaking, if you had a steel plate in your head from some skull injury a long time ago, and you were in the area of an EMP, obviously, the steel plate would be affected by an EMP. However, any effect that it would have I mean, I don't know if there's been any actual research done on this, but it's not like you're going into an MRI. I have to imagine if you actually had like metal pins or metal plates or whatever it was inside of you, the most you might get would be a very temporary buzzing sensation. But I can't even promise that. I have to believe that if you had metal parts inside of you, just inert structural metal parts, I don't think you would even notice. Now, obviously, if you had something like a pacemaker inside your chest, you're going to notice that. But just inert metal parts, I don't see it. I also got to remember that an EMP is basically instant. So any energy that was being transferred into those metal plates, it's going to be so brief. So even in-game or real world, I don't think it would make a difference. All right, so getting back to this. Oh, Malachi said, I had thoughts of the amalgam fillings and such acting up when near radio or cell towers and such. Instant migraine from static to the brain. I have heard cases like that before. And in fact, there's some very famous cases about that. However, that is a constant flow of energy. Because if you're near like a radio tower, it is just broadcasting massive amounts of energy constantly. You are in an active electromagnetic field. But a pulse is just that. It's one electrical pulse, and it's gone. Alright, so what is this thing going to do to constructs? My initial thought is to have it automatically crit against a construct. But I'm not sure about that. I mean, I suppose if we wanted to go really overpowered, we could make it instant death versus a construct, but that would just be that would be too much. If I just give it like an expanded critical to make it like a 19 or 20. Even an expanded critical, though, seems a little bit kind of low. I don't know about that. And Malka says, you've worked around radio antennas so strong you physically cannot fly the helicopters to rescue because the RF will crash the copter. Now, will it crash the copter or just fry all the circuitry inside? Because those two things are different to me. Because when you say crash the copter, I imagine the antenna literally just throws the helicopter on the ground. But if it just fries the circuitry, it's a helicopter. It should just auto-rotate down. That's not really a crash. That just means that, congratulations, you have a paperweight. Malka says a rose by any other name. Actually said a ride by any other name. I guess that's true too. But no, I mean, helicopters will auto-rotate down. It's one of the things that makes helicopters kind of great. I mean, unless there's something that throws everything out of whack and now your helicopter goes tumbling to the ground. But like, an electromagnetic pulse is so fast, I imagine that any helicopter caught, at least in an EMP, would actually be fine. I mean, you would be in a helicopter, you'd be going wherever it is you're going, and then your entire instrument panel would just go dead. And maybe the fact that you might be like, you had forward momentum might screw things up. I'm not sure. But in general, I would think that the helicopter would just stabilize itself. It would probably be spinning around a little bit, but it would probably stabilize itself and just auto-rotate down. Then again, I'm not a helicopter pilot. I could be very wrong about this. Tuck says usually the circuitry will be fine if it gets out of range. Usually. There are antennas out there strong enough to fry people as well. Oh, have you heard about sonar? Like, I only learned about this one recently, but sonar apparently is like... Ugh. Like, if you're diving in the water, and there is a ship nearby, and the ship decides it's going to ping. If you're inside of, like, a certain radius of that ship, you are dead. Apparently, there are some sonar that are so powerful that when they ping, they boil the water around the sonar. And that is just crazy. They are literally boiling the water with sound. And if they're boiling the water with sound, and given how well water conducts sound, you don't even have to be close. If you are within like a couple of miles of a ship or submarine that decides to ping, you are in trouble. I mean, it's actually one of the things that's kind of put me on the side of the environmentalists, because I'm just kind of like, if sonar is lethal to a diver who is anywhere from like 1 to 3 miles away, what the hell is it doing to the other wildlife in the water? I mean, I am not an environmentalist usually. I am not a tree hugger or anything like that. But goddamn, if it's lethal to a human at 1 to 3 miles away, what is it doing to an entire school of fish? What is it doing to a pod of dolphins or whales? For that matter, what is it doing to an entire coral reef? I mean, the coral reef can't run away. It's just going to be there. Again, this is a hill I'll die on. Because, like, the environmental effects of sonar have got to be absolutely just mind-boggling. Malachi says the concussive force of the sonic pulse will literally pressure boil. That's what I'm talking about. Tuck says, been a minute, but depending on how powerful the antenna is, you go from feeling a warm buzz to frying yourself. I don't know. Maybe. I wouldn't want to work around that kind of stuff. And Malachi says, it'll kill ya. It already kills porpoises and whales and such. Spain had an incident a while ago where they were doing sonar tests and a school of small cetaceans beached and died. I've heard about that because people were trying to figure out why do whales keep beaching themselves, and finally someone just said, maybe they're running. Like maybe they heard sonar and they just said, I don't care which way, as long as it's not that way. Tuck says, I think we figured out the mystery of the increase of dead whales washing up. I don't think so. I think the reason why we see a lot more dead whales washing up lately is people. And I don't necessarily mean people in the water. I mean the same reason why we don't have as many murders nowadays. Or why there's been a lot of drops in crime. Why? Cell phones. I mean, 30 years ago, if somebody got stabbed, then you didn't have access to instant 911. You would have to go find somebody who could make the call. Nowadays, if somebody got stabbed, you have 10 people immediately dialing 911 on the spot. 10 people that can be geolocated, and you can immediately dispatch people there. Why do we see so many more whales nowadays? I think it's because there's a lot more people that are out on the beaches, a lot more people with phones, a lot more people who can actually see these things. So I don't believe dead whales washing up we can blame on sonar. However, live ones, oh yeah, I'll buy that one for $1. How do we get on the subject of sonar again? Oh, that's right, we were talking about antennas, because we were talking about the effects of electromagnetics on helicopters. We went from like Warhammer 40k to helicopters to whales. That is the weirdest goddamn tangent I think I've ever gone on. Malachi says, okay, so Bigfoot when with all these cameras. Obviously, you don't really follow the whole cryptozoology thing because there's been a lot more quote-unquote sightings of Bigfoot. Especially as more security cameras and trail cameras and things like that become more ubiquitous. I know a couple of YouTubers who are really big into the whole cryptozoology thing, and they love to talk about Bigfoot and all the new stuff coming out. Me personally, I usually tune out when they start talking about Bigfoot. I don't care. But no, there's lots of stuff still going. That entire community is alive and strong. Malachi says, sighting, sure, but I need the body. Then you don't want to shoot it with a camera, you want to shoot it with a rifle. Okay? That's the difference. That's where you're making a mistake. Tux says, unless you're in New York, in which case you don't call, in case you don't want to get charged with something. I mean, that's fair. But then again, I would get out of New York. If I was in New York right now, I would get out. I would pack whatever I can. I would get a wagon. I would pack the car, buy a trailer, whatever it took. I wouldn't even bother, letting my landlord or anything know that I'm leaving. I'd be gone. Get out of the cities. Hooray! OBS reconnected. That was rough. Okay. Never mind. Everything is good. I thought my internet was going out for a minute there. Alright, anyway. Do EMPs do damage? If EMP weapons do damage, then we can give them something like an expanded critical because you'll be doing damage to whatever you're shooting, and we can give it a better chance to crit versus constructs. The problem I see with that, though, is if you're fighting, like, mechanical infantry, you're fighting, say, Castellan robots, or you're fighting, I don't know, Necrons? Would Necrons be affected by EMPs? They're metal, but they're living metal. Questions for later. Either way, if you're fighting a robot and you shoot the robot, then the EMP is going to hit the robot and, maybe make it a bit harder for it to function, so we can wear it down with multiple EMP shots. And I like that. But what happens if you shoot a truck? Okay, you've got your EMP rifle, you shoot the truck with the EMP rifle. What happens to the truck? Because, I think it's going to hurt it. I mean, technically speaking, when it comes to, trucks, cars, whatever they are, if they get hit with an EMP, they usually just cease to function. Malachi says the truck's electronic control unit blows up. Yeah, that's about it. It doesn't actually damage the structure, it doesn't hurt the engine, it's just anything electronic in it gets fried and it doesn't work anymore. But it doesn't do damage. So I would have to write like separate rules for versus infantry and versus trucks. And I don't want to write separate rules for each. If I don't have to. Tuck says, that does bring up a good question. Why does a gas-powered car stop functioning when getting hit by an EMP? Tux, the reason why a gas-powered car stops functioning after getting hit by an EMP is usually because all the spark plugs are electric. Okay? And so what happens is when the EMP hits a gas-powered car, and an older car, a car before they had electronic control units, it's going to charge the entire electrical system. Okay? And basically what it's going to do is it's going to light every single spark plug at once, as well as charge everything else in the car. It's going to throw off the timing, and once the timing throws off, the car is going to sputter and stop. Now, the interesting thing about that is, after it has stopped, if it is a completely analog car and the circuitry and the battery is still good, as long as the battery and the circuitry is still good, you should be able to fire it back up. Now, it's going to be a little bit more complicated than that, obviously. If it's got a starter in it, you got to worry about the starter getting fried. If the starter gets fried, then you have no way to crank the engine. I mean, I don't know how you would crank an engine without a starter. I'm sure there's a way to do it, I just don't know. I'm not a car person. But in general, that's why most of your car, or your analog cars before they were putting chips in them, will still be functioning after there is a big EMP. It's also why a lot of people right now are looking for cars that have as little electronics in them as possible. Number one, because they see what's happening to all the cars that do have electronics in them, where they're saying, oh, by the way, we've turned heated seats into a subscription service. Yeah, you can go to hell with that. And also because in the event of an EMP, and there is, I cannot stress this enough, there is a massive EMP coming. You want to have low-tech options. Just, again, because so many people call me crazy and say that you cannot, or it's never going to happen. There are two really, really big sources of EMPs. Number one are nukes. Okay? So if you're one of those people who believes that we are on the cusp of nuclear war, then you want to be prepared with low-tech options for whatever it is you do. The second one, and the one that is absolutely guaranteed, it's not a matter of if, just when, is, as Malachi said, the sun. I'm not going to deviate from what we're doing to go into a long diatribe or a long history lesson on the Carrington event. All you need to know is that back in, I believe it was the 1890s, 1910s, somewhere around the turn of the century, there was a massive coronal ejection from the sun. And it slammed into the Earth head-on. When it did, it supercharged the entire magnetic field of the Earth, and it turned the entire Earth's atmosphere into one giant electromagnetic field. Which, I mean, it already is, but it supercharged it. And that, in turn, supercharged every single conductor on the planet. Every single antenna, every single wire, every single receiver, every light bulb, every speaker. I think they had speakers back then, not sure. Either way, it caused the auroras to spread from the North Pole and the South Pole almost all the way to the equator. There are reports of people seeing the aurora borealis in Florida. And if you know anything about the aurora, that's insane. It also started fires across the entire world because all of the telegraph lines became supercharged and they were arcing into nearby brush. Telegraph operators were reported getting shocked and burned just trying to touch the telegraphs. Cities that had rudimentary electrical systems saw them absolutely destroyed. Light bulbs were literally exploding because the filaments in them took so much energy they just burned out and popped. That was at the turn of the century. Nowadays, if a Carrington event was to hit, anything with a chip in it, everything with a chip in it, would instantly be rendered garbage. Anything that uses high capacity power, which, I mean, is the power grid, would instantly be fried. It would wipe out nearly every single piece of technology we have. We would instantly go back to the pre-industrial era. We would go back to hand and animal power for almost everything we do. The only machines left would be the very, very few steam machines we still have in operation. And that would be it. Malachi says, we've already had one Carrington event. But what about second Carrington event? Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when, okay? The sun, or the entire solar system is spinning like one giant roulette table, okay? And Earth is on 13 black. We are just waiting for the ball to land on our slot again. It happened once, and if we continue to spin the roulette wheel, it will land on us again. It is not an if, it is a guarantee. Every single time the sun acts up and it has a massive coronal ejection, something is getting hit. What was that wonderful... I haven't played Mass Effect 2, but I have seen this scene. It was, what was it, a safety briefing by one of the sergeants? Where he was talking about the railguns on the starships, where he said, every single time you pull the trigger on this gun, you are ruining someone's day. Because that bullet does not stop until it hits something or someone. The same thing is true for the sun. Every single time there is a solar flare or a coronal mass ejection, it is ruining someone's day. It just hasn't been us yet. Malachi says, don't forget hydropower. You can forget hydropower. At least in terms of like hydroelectric dams. Because the generators will be absolutely obliterated. A generator is just two coils of magnetic wire. Or not even magnetic wire, it's just two coils of wire. And in the event of a Carrington event, the generators are going to completely melt down. However, water mills and water wheels and things like that, absolutely you're right. No, you're right on that. Water mills, water wheels, things of that nature, they will be fine. And Malachi says, if we continue to spin the wheel as if we had a choice. No, we don't get a choice. The wheel is always spinning, and the sun gets to throw the ball. So that is happening. Someday, it is going to happen to us unless we find some way to either properly shield or mitigate the massive amount of power that would be coming in. And I don't even know how to start. By the way, to give you an idea of just what I'm talking about, okay? There's something called a Faraday cage. Faraday cages are used when you want to isolate something from ambient electromagnetic radiation. For example, if you built a Faraday cage in your house and you took your phone in there, your phone probably wouldn't work. I say probably because Faraday cages are very, very thin and rudimentary. Experts who talk about if you want to protect, your electronic devices from, say, an EMP. People will ask them and say, so if I get like a Faraday cage and put a Faraday cage inside of my supply room, I should be fine, right? And then the preppers who know better will laugh at them and say, no. If you want to protect like your phone from a nuclear EMP, you want to put your phone in, say, a microwave, which has a built-in Faraday cage. And then you want to take your microwave, put that inside of another microwave, put that inside of a Faraday cage, and then bury the Faraday cage 10 feet underground. Now your phone might survive. And that's just a nuke. There is nothing that will be safe from a Carrington event. And that's the kind of damage that we're looking at here. We're talking about, that is what an EMP does to electronics. So is it going to do damage, or should it just be an automatic shutdown? Because as much as I don't want to overpower this, I'm not seeing an option. Malachi says Michael Faraday was so far beyond his time it's not even funny. Oh, no kidding. He was on par with Tesla. Here's what I'm thinking. What I think I want to do is I'm gonna go all the way on this one. Okay, I'm actually gonna do this. I'm gonna go all the way on this one, and I'm gonna say it's gonna be a save versus death versus constructs. And I'm just gonna say constructs in general because we're not gonna have magic. No magic means no magical constructs. I don't think there are any other kind of constructs in Warhammer 40k, because even the weirder things that come from the warp, they're demons. So when we're talking constructs, we're talking just robots. Or maybe like the little drones from the Tau, or things of that nature. Let's see. Malachi says, also, can I scare the party AdMech with a few EMP grenades, or would they actually have to kill me for threatening their precious tech? They might actually have to kill you. Because, let's follow the chain of events here. You're threatening their technology with an EMP grenade. The technology, of course, is sacred because all technology carries the machine spirit. The machine spirit is an extension of the Emperor's will, because he is the Omnissiah and he helped create all the technology that gave birth to the machine spirits. So by threatening the technology, you are, by several steps removed, tangentially threatening the Emperor of Mankind, and I'm pretty sure by even suggesting it, that's going to get you a visit from the Inquisitorius. Bottom line is you just got to not do that, okay? Just don't do it. Because, like, you don't want to mess with the AdMech guys, okay? Don't do it. Nothing good comes from messing with the Adeptus Mechanicus. Because if you're right, and if they're right, you have literally committed heresy against the God Emperor of Mankind. And if they're wrong, you have committed heresy against a dragon living in the middle of Mars. Either way, just don't do it. Just don't do it. Alright, so I think what we're going to do is this, and I think we will have multiple different tiers of, we'll have multiple different tiers of saves here. But that does also mean that, like, if you decide to play an android character for some reason, I'm not sure why you would do it, but if you wanted to play an android character and somebody comes at you with an EMP weapon, that might actually be a case where you're just like, you know what? I'm sitting this one out. Okay? I'm sitting this fight out. Y'all can go in there and get EMP'd all day. I'm not taking the risk. And we could start it off easy and just say, like, the first level of EMP gun maybe has a DC 5 fortitude save. You should be able to knock out a DC 5 all day long. You know, until you don't. But like a higher level EMP gun with like a DC 20 fortitude save, yeah, you might just say, I'm not doing it. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and make it save versus death when it comes to constructs. Now, what about vehicles? Actually, no. Before we even get to vehicles. Armor. Armor and weapons. No, not this one. I want to come back to here. Armor and weapons. Donning armor, armor size, environmental protection, activation duration, radiation temperature, armor descriptions. What about if armor gains the broken condition? Is that such a thing? Hold on. I can probably look this up really easily under conditions. Conditions. Blading broken. Here we go. So, for a weapon, the attack and damage rolls take a -2 penalty and cannot deal extra effects to on a critical hit. For armor, AC bonuses are halved, and the armor check penalty is doubled. For a vehicle, it is a -2 penalty to AC, collision DC, and piloting modifier, and it halves its full speed and miles per hour. For a tool or tech that provides bonuses, all bonuses are halved. Now, that's broken. I do believe wrecked is also a thing. Is it not? me look this up. Is there a... No, I guess not. Let's say, is there a further extension of broken? I guess not. Alright, in this case... I'm going to say save versus broken versus items. So, if you shoot this, if you shoot a vehicle with an EMP, it has to make a fortitude save versus the EMP, otherwise be broken. JP says, can people have the condition broken? Yes, they can, but not from this. That's actually something you need to talk to your therapist about. In terms of EMP weapons, though, they are harmless versus anything organic. So, no worries there. And I mean, that pretty much covers everything. Tuck says, I am attempting to make a D&D style game. I want to make a few weapons that covered all my bases and maybe expand later. I have a list of 63 weapons. Well, I mean, if you want help with that, just hit me up in Discord and I can give you some advice, I'm sure. Alright, so we've got organic targets, we've got constructs, we've got vehicles, weapons, and armor. However, I still feel like it needs to go further. Because, like, if it's broken, it pretty much halves everything. But shouldn't there be a state where it just simply stops working entirely? Because I really think there should be. I think I'm going to borrow from the Starship crits, where it's got glitching, malfunctioning, or wrecked. We have broken, but I think I'm going to borrow wrecked. And I'm going to say that EMP plus broken equals wrecked. Wrecked. Let's see. Weapon is no longer usable. Armor provides no bonuses. Powered armor shuts down. Well, actually, no. I'm going to leave the armor as it is, but I'm going to say powered armor shuts down. And what was the other one? Alright, tools or tech that provide bonuses. Tools or tech become useless. Vehicles cease to function. So, what we've got here is a template that we can start building EMP weapons. So, if you have an EMP rifle, okay? Is a rifle, right? What was it again? Oh, an EMP blaster. So, you've got an EMP blaster, okay? You shoulder it, you aim, you fire. And you shoot a construct. So the first time the construct is hit, well, you shoot a construct, it has to make a save. If it fails to save, it's just dead. But let's say they've got a vehicle. So you shoot the vehicle, the vehicle has to make a fortitude save. If the vehicle fails, it's now broken. And by the rules here, -2 penalty to AC, to collision DC, piloting modifier, halves its full speed and its miles per hour. Okay, so now it's an easier target, it doesn't maneuver as well, it's slower, you take another shot, you plug it again, it has to roll fortitude save, it fails the fortitude save a second time, and now the vehicle is wrecked. And so it ceases to function entirely. Does that cover all the bases? JP says that we need a psionic blaster for personnel. We have not even gotten through all the races yet. We will get to psychers later. Because psychers are going to be their own thing. And basically, how psychers are going to work is going to be very similar to the Wheel of Time, where upon rolling your character, you basically get to make a dice roll to see if your character is a psyker. I'm thinking about making it a very small potential, because psychers will be terrifying. I mean, there is a reason why in the lore psychers are feared, and I intend to continue that. Like, you'll roll for being a psyker. Will you have great powers? Yes. Will you also be a walking time bomb? Yes. But you'll have great power, you know, until a demon splits your head open and crawls through the hanging remains of your skull. So, you know, you take the bad with the good. But okay, I think that's good for EMP weapons. Now we just have to actually make the EMP weapons. And we'll have to figure out things like their range and just the saves for saves versus the EMP, all of that stuff. That's going to be for next time though, because we've been going for a couple hours here. I'm going to go ahead and wrap things up now that we've got this worked out. And I like the way it looks. Like, I'm going to make sure that the EMP blaster is going to be kind of a larger weapon, because I don't want people to be carrying these things around everywhere like they're a sidearm. What does it look like? There's not even a picture of it! Alright, what if I look at this? Can I get a picture of this? Can I get a picture of anything? I guess not. Alright, I'll try to find a picture of one later. Because I'm assuming that it's a rifle, but I gotta make sure. I gotta make sure that I know what this thing is before I can classify it. So, I gotta go do some research. Just as well. Like I said, this has been going on for a couple hours now. I'm ready for a break. So, when we get back next time, we'll pick up right where we left off. We'll start with the EMP weapons, which is really just the blaster and grenades, and then we'll make our way after that. Because after we do the EMPs, then we get to go do the ion weapons. And ion weapons are going to have to be different too. Because what does an ion weapon usually do? Ion weapons usually screw with electronics. So, I don't know. We're going to have to wait and see exactly how those turn out. But, like I said, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take a break. So, if you want to be here for that, when we go through and do the EMP weapons and the ion weapons, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Make sure you hit the bell icon. That way you get notified. I send out my own notifications anyway, but just hit the bell anyway. Better be safe than sorry. If you know somebody else who's also into tabletop games like Warhammer 40k, like Pathfinder, Starfinder, anything like this, you think they might enjoy this stream, Share it with them. Bring them with you. We'll have a good time. We always have a good time, right? We have a good time. We're having fun. Otherwise, though, if you just like me, leave a like on the video. Leave comments in the comment section below or in the chat, either way. Or if you want to come yell at me, in real time, join us in the Discord. Discord's there. And if you ever want to join these games when they go live, I'm still gathering people up, you will need to be on the Discord. So if you want to play in the games with us, then hop on the Discord, go to the behind the screen channel, and let me know what your availability is. I need to know what time zone you're in and what days you're available. And I might need more information later on, but for now that seems to be working out pretty well. So do that, and I will see you next time for the next part of the Tau Arsenal. Something to look forward to. Until then, take care.